What's going on, everybody? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I unfortunately have to recap the Giants' 27-13 loss over the Seattle Seahawks as the Giants fall to 6-2 through the first 8 weeks of the season. Now, if you told me the Giants were going to be 6-2 through the first 8 weeks of the year, I would absolutely sign up for that. Absolutely. With the way the roster is constructed this year, with the new regime, with the amount of injuries that the team had in the offseason and preseason, I would sign up for 6-2, 100%. So this is an outstanding start to the season for the Giants. Unfortunately, an underwhelming performance yesterday against the Seattle Seahawks. Now, before I dive into that, folks, make sure to go check us out on all of our social media platforms on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter at Big Blue Avenue. Appreciate all the support that we've gotten. And of course, want to plug our proud sponsor, BetUS. That is America's #1 favorite sports book. You can sign up with our promo code below there at Join125. You get a 125% sign-up bonus when you sign up. Get all your bets straight from your mobile device. You can cash out on the go, anywhere, anytime. That is BetUS, America's #1 favorite sports book, where the game begins. And as you can see here, I apologize for the background. I'm in Florida for the weekend. I'm actually heading back up to New York later tonight out of Jacksonville. It's funny, Giants were in Jacksonville last weekend. I come down here a week later. But anyway, Giants losing to the Seahawks. Was not impressed with this game. It had a bad feeling going into it, right? Everyone's 6-1. The Giants were 3-point dogs, and for obvious reason. The Giants were bound to lose a football game, right? You can't look great every week. And today, this week, was one of those weeks where the Giants just didn't play well. The game was tied 13-13 in the fourth quarter, and that's where Seattle began to take off. The Giants had a couple of injuries happen throughout the course of the game. They lost defensive lineman Nick Williams. That was a big loss for them. And then Richie James left with a concussion, but in my opinion, he had the worst game of the season out of any performance we've had this season. Had 2 costly fumbles, one when the Giants are down by 7. The defense forces a punt. They're about to get the ball back, give Daniel Jones an opportunity in this offense to drive down the field and tie the football game, or maybe even go for 2 and win it like they did in Tennessee back in week 1. But Richie James fumbles the football. And you know what? I'll say this. The missing presence of Daniel Bellinger was noticed. The missing presence of Evan Neal was also noticed. Ben Bredeson in pass protection. Daniel Jones was sacked 5 times. Ben Bredeson, as you all may know, yeah, he gets a lot of shit from the fan base, but he's one of the better pass protecting guards in the National Football League. That's why he's starting. So again, Jones was sacked 5 times. All those injuries showed on the offense, and it hurt Barkley. Barkley only had 53 rushing yards against Seattle. He had minimal room to run. He looked hesitant on those jump cuts. And we'll get to Daniel Jones. 17-31, 176 yards. Outside of Darius Slayton, nobody was contributing in the passing game. 6 rushes for 20 yards for Daniel, and then Saquon had 20 for 53. He had that 1 touchdown, great block by Nick Gates, clearing the way. I mean, I think one of the few positives you take from this game is the return of Nick Gates from injury, often coming in as that 6th offensive lineman, doing a nice block. Mark Lewinsky also had a big swing block on that touchdown run by Barkley. Yeah. And then, you know what? I'll say this. Slayton had 5 for 66, and he was the alpha in that game, but he can't be your alpha. I was impressed with Tanner Hudson, though, in the receiving game. He had 3 catches for 58 yards. Chris Myrick also made a nice catch for a first down on a 3rd and long. So, you know what? There were some positives to take from this game. Nick Gates played an important role, as I mentioned. But again, what it really came down to, folks, was the fourth quarter. The Giants got outscored 14-3. Unacceptable. And that was the difference of this game. You know, defensively, you look at what was going on. I think Julian Love had a solid game, 8 tackles. Tamon Fox had 2 tackles for loss late in the game. Again, Kenneth Walker didn't have much room to run. That was the one positive from the defense. They limited Kenneth Walker to just 2.8 yards per carry. And part of that was because of Leonard Williams. As you can see, Leonard Williams, once Nick Williams left the game, I was concerned because now you're down to Leo, Dexter, and Jelly. So at that point, I'm thinking, well, Giants are going to have problems stopping the run. Wrong. Leonard Williams finished the game with 8 tackles, 1 sack, 5 quarterback hits, clearly my player of the game for the Giants. Jalen Smith was impressive with 7 tackles, and then Adoree Jackson had a hot and cold type of game. He had the pass breakup in the end zone. He had a pass breakup on a third down play as well. He had a key force fumble on Tyler Lockett, but he was also burned for a touchdown against Tyler Lockett later on in the game. So again, Adoree Jackson has to be a little bit more consistent. But again, who the Giants have beaten the last few weeks? Jacksonville, outside of Christian Kirk, right? Christian Kirk is not a top 15 receiver in the NFL. He's not. Green Bay, no star receivers. Baltimore, no star receivers. Seattle has 2, in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. And that was the concern for me. You have Adoree Jackson and Fabian Moreau going up against Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. And the Giants lost that matchup. Tyler Lockett had a 33-yard touchdown that really, in my opinion, put a nail in the coffin of this game. 5 catches for 63 yards for Lockett. He did drop one earlier, as I mentioned. That would have been a touchdown. Adoree did kind of get in the way there. And then DK Metcalf had 6 catches on 10 targets for 55 yards and a score. Not flashy numbers, but productive. Kenneth Walker was held to just 51 yards on the ground, 18 rushes. He did have that 1 touchdown, though. Geno Smith had a great game. I'm not a Geno Smith guy at all, but I have to give credit where credit is due. He went 23 for 34, 212 yards, 2 touchdown passes. He was sacked 3 times. I mentioned Williams had 1. The other 2 were Xavier McKinney, his first sack of the season. And one player I really want to point out on this defense that I don't think gets enough recognition. 5th-round rookie Micah McFadden, linebacker out of Indiana, recorded his first NFL sack of his career and added 4 tackles. In fact, he outsnapped Tay Crowder in this game. That was something interesting that I took from this game. I'm interested to see if Micah McFadden is on the field more later on in the season. It looks like he's getting a lot more comfortable in Wink Martindale's scheme. Not that he ever wasn't, just as a rookie, he takes time to get acclimated more than a vet. Seattle's defense looked great. They really did. The Giants were 6 for 16 on 3rd down. Mike Jackson was outstanding. I had never even heard of this guy before the game, but he had 3 pass defended. Uchenna Nwasu, one of the sack leaders for the team, had 2 sacks in the game. Cody Barton had a sack and had that pass breakup on that 4th down. Crazy. And then you look at Seattle's offense again. There was nothing flashy, but the Giants gave up a big play here and there, and the penalties hurt the Giants too. Penalties and the turnovers were the 2 biggest things for me. Seattle was just 3 for 13 on 3rd down, but they were 2 for 2 on 4th down. And here's really where the tail of the tape comes into effect here. Seattle had 3 penalties. Giants had 6. Seattle had 1 turnover. The Giants had 2. So even though the Giants controlled the ball for 33 minutes of this game, those 2 turnovers really, really hurt. Richie James turned the ball over deep in his own end zone. And the first fumble as well. Again, it's just not a good look. People are calling for Richie James to get cut. I don't think he should get cut. He's in concussion protocol. I think, if anything, you don't play him for the next couple of weeks and you remove his status as punt returner. People are forgetting he was also the team's leading receiver heading into this week, and they just traded away Kadarius Toney. Why would you cut Richie James? It wouldn't logically make any sense. Despite of how porous a performance he had, I don't think you cut him. I think you take away his punt returning duties 100% and don't play him as much until he proves that he can hold on to the football. If the fumbling problems continue, though, then you have to have the conversation. It might be time to cut ties. But this was just one game. It was a costly game, fortunately. But take away his punt returning duties. Unacceptable. Again, I realistically think this is a good time for the Giants to have their bye. They're 6-2. Time to get healthy. Ben Bredesen was placed to IR. He's going to be out for a while. But Daniel Bellinger's injury, he's ranging within 2 to 6 weeks. Evan Neal, 2 to 4. So the fact that the Giants have a bye, they'll have time to get healthier. Leo can rest up his elbow a little bit. And I'm interested to see about Kenny Golladay. Is he going to come back? Because a lot of fans want the Giants to trade for a number 1 receiver. I don't. And here's why I don't. The Giants are not in a position to win a championship this year. This roster is not constructed to do that. Why give away future draft picks for a wide receiver like a Jerry Jeudy or a DJ Moore, who I don't want after his antics after scoring that touchdown on Sunday? He lost his team the game. taking his helmet off. But Jerry Jeudy, for example, he was great, and Denver just won. They're not going to trade him away. They're still in the mix for a playoff spot. As bad as it might sound, they're 3-5, but again, you still have Russell Wilson. You still have good receivers in Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, and rookie tight end Greg Dulcich is finally healthy. Why give up? This Denver team has also had a lot of injuries to deal with this year. So why would they trade Jerry Jeudy to the Giants, especially when the Giants don't have enough cap room to allocate for Jerry Jeudy? I think the Kadarius Toney cut only saved the Giants a little less than $1 million. So the trade, I should say, of Toney. But realistically, this is a tough loss for the Giants. I would say don't trade for a wide receiver and play with what you got. You have Kenny Golladay coming back from injury soon. Throw him the ball, get him involved. I just don't see the purpose. If you're going to trade for a wide receiver, I guess I would trade for somebody like a Brandon Cooks or a Zay Jones, somebody under the radar that could make plays. Maybe even somebody from, I don't know, Detroit, like a Josh Reynolds, somebody that could fit into this scheme that could go over the top. You can't be looking for a slot receiver. Realistically, you got to look for players like David Sills to step up, Kenny Golladay to step up, Darius Slayton to continue to step up and fill those voids. Also, I think the more Wan'Dale Robinson gets acclimated to this lineup, the more positive plays we'll see. But that's it for my recap on this game for the Giants and the Seahawks. Hopefully the Giants get healthier during the bye week. And without further ado, let's go Big Blue.